4, 3, 2, 1. I told you before to be careful where you put your legs.
I was only trying to be helpful.
I can help myself. What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on. What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on.
For 7 decades, Michael Caine has been among the world's most renowned and recognisable actors.
It was just what I needed. A 1-inch god with a 2-inch penis.
The star of classics like Zulu, The Man Who Would Be King, and The Cider House Rules.
It's a miracle no one was killed.
But also films that brought his career to the brink of complete implosion.
I made a mistake.
Somehow, he has always found a way back.
You're a big man, but you're in bad shape. With me, it's a full-time job.
In this epic podcast series, we will watch and review every Michael Caine movie, from the greatest hits...
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off!
...to the incredible misses.
You failed to maintain your weapon, son.
And take a deep dive into the life and work of one of the world's most recognisable film stars.
His name is Michael Caine, and no one will forget his name.
To understand how he has made the mark of Caine.
Well, you all settled in? Right, we can begin. For God's sake, come in!
Hello and welcome to another instalment of The Mark of Caine, where we skip once again through the minefield that is the filmography of Michael Caine, watching every single movie and hoping our next step doesn't result either in the loss of a leg or, potentially worse again, having to watch The Swarm. But we've got a way to go before we deal with The Swarm and things like that. My name is Michael Foley, and with me as always is Stephen Black, creator, curator and chief content provider for the Mallow News Twitter Emporium. How are you doing?
Well, Mick, to be honest with you, if we're going with the whole minefield metaphor, I am basically lying in the arms of one of my squad mates, watching my entrails pour out in front of me and knowing full well that if I survive, I'll never wear a pair of boots again. Maybe the best thing I can hope for is a photo op of Princess Diana. No.
And you know what the worst? I don't know about you, right? And okay, we have kind of the benefit of historical perspective in that we know that things like The Swarm are coming and Jaws of Revenge and so on. But this one came as a surprise. This was like walking through a normal field and stepping on maybe a mine from a war from long ago. I didn't expect to get blown up into the sky this early in the process.
This week's entry into the canon of the Mark of Caine is Hurry Sundown, which is a very benign title. You think Hurry Sundown?
Yeah.
That sounds like
what
somebody wants to
mean?
get home from work. Well, I want to get home from work. Hurry Sundown. I can't wait. I finished toiling in the fields. I get to go home, have my dinner, put the kids to bed, watch a bit of TV, maybe have a glass of wine or a bottle of beer, and then go maybe watch one of those football games that you enjoy so much, Michael.
Foot the ball. Would you mind? Foot the ball.
Foot the ball games. That's what the name Hurry Sundown. It certainly isn't the harbinger of 2 hours and 40 minutes of non-stop shit, which is essentially what it ended up being.
Yeah, it's oh god.
Actually, because I'm clearly not up to the task. Can you put this into football metaphors in terms of Michael Caine's career to this point and then his decision to take this film? What would this be like in, I don't know, kind of a foot the ball type scenario? Yeah,
it's a little bit like sort of, okay, up and coming team goes on a run. You know, they go to somewhere like Anfield, get a result against Liverpool. They surprise Manchester United at Old Trafford. Suddenly they're the toast of the league. They're going well. Maybe the next couple of games they draw against mid-table teams, and then suddenly they meet the bottom team, you expect them maybe just to go nicely and well, but somehow they completely and utterly shit the course in a way that makes you question everything you've seen over the previous few games and effectively put them back in their box where they started. Do you know what it is? We're not angry. We're just disappointed.
I'm Burgess Meredith, and I am also an authority on Hurry Sundown, the best-selling novel that has been read and acclaimed by millions of people all over the world. Now, the New York Times Book Review said of this novel, there is anger in Hurry Sundown, and there is truth, and there is a surge of life that is unforgettable. The Literary Guild Review said, it has the sweep of Gone with the Wind and the spirit of the Grapes of Wrath. And now this sweep and this spirit and the powerful surge of life is on the screen in Otto Preminger's film, Hurry Sundown. I know because I have seen it and I have watched it being made, and with many other stars, I am in it. Hurry Sundown is a story of the Deep South just after World War II. It is boldly different from everything that has been told before. It goes deep into the secrets and passions of the South, a part of America that has always intrigued the world. It is a proud land with its own traditions, its own customs, its own heritage. It is a place of vivid contrasts. It can be warmly sentimental and wildly sensual, charming and friendly, suddenly violent. It is often gracious, but sometimes terrifying. When an actor works with new stars, he always gets a special thrill, and Hurry Sundown has the most brilliant young cast in years. This is Michael Caine, whom you first met in the Ipcress File, Funeral in Berlin, and Alfie. He's about to play a scene with Jane Fonda. They're dynamite together.
Don't you come in here! Don't you touch me! No!
It was a combination that exploded day after day.
Ain't never been anything like that in my side of the family.
Jane Fonda is always fascinating.
Henry! You are depraved. Making your own wife blush before 6 in the morning.
Hurry Sundown also has 4 new stars of tomorrow. Diane Carroll, the nightclub, stage, and recording star, now in a screen role that audiences will remember.
You whites don't have a monopoly on that kind of man.
John Philip Law, who made a sensational screen debut in The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming.
Great God almighty, I'm really home.
Faye Dunaway. Since finishing Hurry Sundown, she is one of Hollywood's brightest and most sought-after new talents.
Give me the damn thing, will you?
No, I'm not gonna let you go.
Give it to me.
No. Right.
And Robert Hooks. He's a discovery from New York's Broadway Theater.
We can't trust no Miss Julia nor other white folks to look out for us. We gotta start watching out for ourselves.
And here I am, typecast again as a charming, pleasant fellow. This was nothing less than the leavings of a drunken, syphilitic old nigger woman. The supporting roles, too, are magnificently cast and performed by Robert Reed, George Kennedy, Frank Converse, Loring Smith, Madeline Sherwood, Rex Ingram, Steve Sanders, John Mark, Doro Morandi, Luke Askew, Donna Danton, Jim Backus, and Bea Richards.
I was a white folks nigger, I was.
You must see Otto Preminger's film Hurry Sundown, an explosive drama of love and the absence of love. It is set in the South, but it is happening everywhere.
We're disappointed a lot. We're disappointed a lot earlier. I had my disappointment face prepared. This was a lot sooner than I expected to be kind of this disappointed in Michael Caine's career. So
because we know what's coming. Like,
just for the sake of those who may have wandered randomly onto this, what could you summarize the plot there for us? What actually happens or doesn't happen in Hurry Sundown?
Yeah, like and we should say, do go and find this film. I mean, it will aid you along the way here. And if you have seen the film, if you've watched the film for the purposes of listening to this, I just want to say well done. And I want to say we're with you right now. We're here for you, and we can get through this together.
We are not liable. We are not liable for any post-traumatic stress that you may have experienced as a result of watching this, though.
No, talk to Caine, talk to Jane Fonda, talk to those people. That's not our bag. But basically, this film, oh my God, what is this film about? It's a film that has big ideas for itself. It wants to be a film of big ideas about racial tension in the Deep South, about race issues. Otto Preminger is the director. He's a guy who's kind of, he's tackled these big questions before, things like the man with the golden arm, drug addiction, and so on and so forth. So he wants to get his teeth now into a Gone with the Wind style production. So Caine is playing Henry Warren, this kind of property speculator who's married into big money in rural Georgia. He wants to sell their land plus 2 plots of land to a canning company. So the 2 plots of land, the first plot of land is owned by the McDowells, Rad being Caine's character's first cousin. He's back from the war. Of course, Caine's character is a draft dodger, which immediately makes him an all-round bad guy before he does any of the crap that he's about to do. The other package of land is owned by the Scotts, an African-American family. The matriarch, Rose, would have been the wet nurse to Julianne, who's played by Jane Fonda. It's Caine's wife in the movie. But, of course, the 2 families won't sell. They actually join forces to resist Caine. There's a whole, it goes along, various subplots. In keeping it was a bit like To Kill a Mockingbird. Actually, the guy who wrote the script for To Kill a Mockingbird had a go at this, and Preminger told him, no, sorry, you're fine, paid him up and told him to go away. They have a big courtroom scene. You have the rancidly racist judge, played by Burgess Meredith, better known to all of us, of course, as the Penguin in Batman and Mickey in Rocky. He plays the rancidly racist judge. It just goes on forever, the courtroom scene. It turns out that, yes, the Scots, the African-American family, do own it. It's all fine. Then there's the Ku Klux Klan come in. They blow up some levees. There's a flood. A child dies. The father gets over it inside of about 15 seconds. And everybody gets back together and says, we're going to rebuild the farms again. That's pretty much it. There's some appalling sex in it. Really bad saxophone playing. What else? And
can I just say before we begin? Can I just say, if as a listener, not having seen this film, you found that description boring and kind of meandering, it's because Mick has given you a very good, precise account of what the film is about. It is boring and it is meandering.
Yes. It's got all the bits that you need to make a really big, epic movie that answers big questions, but it completely fails. It's an epic fail. But look, that's the movie. I don't really care about the movie, to be honest. I don't know about you. I mean, as I say, if people have watched it for this, you've watched it. If you want to go and see why we're so disappointed, go and find it.
If you've seen it, our commiserations, and we feel your pain. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to break it down into things that we found interesting.
Yeah.
First of all, we'll just tackle Caine himself. The biggest thing, of course, with Caine's character in this is that Caine, a Cockney, is playing for the first time on screen somebody other than an Englishman. He's playing a Southern gentleman.
It's not the first time, though, that he's attempted an accent, let's say, isn't it not? There were some in his deep, dark past.
In his deep, dark past, I think he played an Indian, of all things, back in Dixon of Dock Green, but he played the Indian with a Welsh accent because he managed to convince the director, who had clearly never met an Indian, that Indians sound Welsh.
He played a German. He also played a German officer in some other, bit part.
He did, and he lost a TV gig. He lost a TV gig because he was supposed to play an Irishman. He couldn't pull off an Irish accent. I mean, to be honest with you, that director, whoever he was, if only people had the same moral fibre as he has when it comes to actors not being able to pull off Irish accents, we could have been spared Wild Mountain Time.
You know the way you're watching something and things strike you like immediately. I mean, I think the very first scene, he's in a helicopter shouting. And straight away, the Southern accent is cracking and just breaking apart.
Obviously, his character is a prick, but you want Caine to do well, obviously, because
we're rooting for him.
At this stage of his career, we were rooting for him. But it's like watching, those little. It's like watching footage of a newborn deer, little baby fawn trying to get up on its legs, and going, "Oh, it's going to do it," and you realise after a few seconds, not only is he not going to walk, he may never walk again, and maybe the best thing for him is just to end up on somebody's table with a fine little red berry sauce. Yeah,
I got to the point that I started taking note of the things he couldn't say in a deep South accent. It was like dollars, thoughts. The phrase, if I was you, I'm sorry. He couldn't say I'm sorry.
And you know what? That's fucking ironic, considering he couldn't say sorry in his book either. First of all, he says this movie he says is the first in a long line of mistakes he made by judging the merits of a movie that he was going to do based on the pedigree of the people who were doing it. So he's basically saying, I didn't read the script, I just saw Otto Preminger was doing it, and I associated him with the man with the golden arm and Anatomy of a Murder. So there's that, but also when he's talking about the reviews afterwards, he noted that some of the British press tore him apart because saying he can't do an accent, but he noted that all the southern press applauded him for his excellent Southern accent.
Yeah, I'd say the Southern press were probably very, very complimentary to anything that dragged the film down in any way and could possibly kind of turn people off of taking it seriously at all. Like, he couldn't say, turn me on, open up, it's me, she'll be all right. And I think
those three sentences were in a row, weren't they?
Yeah. They may have been. I mean, they also appeared at other stages in the movie. But I think the ultimate one, I mean, there's a bunch of them, but I mean, the ultimate one was, I'll get you for this. I mean, he's a bad guy, and he can't say, I'll get you for this, in a plausible accent, a plausible Southern accent. It's just unbelievable.
Well, look, accents aside, is he good in it?
He's not. He's not. Like, the whole thing is a complete shit show, right? The only people, I mean, we'll come to this maybe in a little while, right? But it's actually amazing that most of the people in this movie crawled out with their careers intact. But, like, is he good in it? He gives it his best college try. I think he's going in. He's overreaching himself in a movie that's overreaching itself. I mean, the mood, the vibe on the set seems to have been appalling. I mean, Faye Dunaway is in it as well. This is before she makes Bonnie and Clyde. She's locked into a 6-movie deal with Preminger. It's such a traumatic experience for her that she buys her way out of the contract afterwards. She's just treated like muck. In fact, Caine, I think, in another book, makes the point that he consciously told Preminger, who had a reputation for just destroying actors, that actually I'm a very sensitive guy, and if you scream at me, I won't be able to take it. I'll just break down. And Preminger's response is, well, why would I shout at Alfie? I only shout at bad actors, essentially. I think that's part of it as well. I don't know what you think about this. I think he's kind of floating on the whole Alfie thing. He kind of maybe. Now, and to be fair, this was made in the summer of '66. Alfie had just come up before, but he is floating on the whole vibe with the Oscar and everything. Maybe he's just overreaching himself in every which way.
Yeah, he does have all. He has the air of a man who hasn't eaten for months, and all of a sudden is given access to a buffet or a carvery. He's just there and he's piling potatoes and gravy, and he's asking for extra roasts. Whatever he can get away with. Like before the gravy train stops, and he doesn't get to earn any more money. So I don't think it's very much. It's not an artistic choice. He says it's an artistic choice in terms of, he judged on the pedigree, but I mean, he's not doing his due diligence by reading the script and actually, verifying whether it's actually any fucking good or not.
You're absolutely right. I mean, Jane Fonda was a star at the time. He actually gets billing above Jane Fonda, which I think is significant in itself. But he's doing it, and there we will see more examples of this in the very near future, where he is picking projects because of the people who are involved in it, and it doesn't work out. It doesn't really work out. Let's say, it's not great. But overall, I mean, look, he does his best, and he does have some moments. Again, we go back to what we talked about at the very top of this whole thing about the charisma of Caine on screen. And there are some, and we will talk about them in a second, there are some genuinely appalling moments in this that he's involved in. But there are other moments where his face alone, the hooded eyes, sort of work. I mean, as this is his first out-and-out bad guy. He's played flawed characters and kind of an incompetent cat burglar in Gambit. Harry Palmer is a little bit of a, he's kind of he's becoming a better secret agent at Funeral in Berlin, but he's not great. But this is his first out-and-out git. And, he does okay. I mean, do you think he's good? What did you come away with feeling about
I think he's fine. It's very much hit your mark, say your lines, and go home at the end of the day. As far as that, I think he's on record as saying as concentrating on doing an accent takes up 50% of your performance, which means all you're left with is 50% of. I think, given that time of career, would have been 50% to 25% if you could do that maths, and I can't because I'm not very good at maths, and I'm not sure that made sense in the first place. But look. Yeah, I think he did okay. He did not very well, I suppose. Rather than drag people through any more mire of the movie, well, certainly not anymore that we need to do ourselves.
Apart from one small little thing that is worth reflecting on, where he learned the Southern accent, his inspiration for the Southern accent, and it's a classic Caine anecdote. He's at a party with John Gielgud, and he meets Vivian Leigh, and he asks Vivian Leigh, who he's met, this is his first time meeting, this kind of screen legend, screen goddess of the era, I says, how did you do Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind? And she says, well, just keep saying four-door Ford. Now, I've been saying four-door Ford for a while, trying to figure out how that works.
She said she did it nonstop for 4 weeks though.
Nonstop for 4 weeks.
That's all she said for 4 weeks. I'd say she just went out. She must have had a litter of cars by the end of it. It's Caine certainly didn't do that due diligence. I say he said it once.
Yeah,
so I got it.
Fodo Ford, got it. It reminds me a little bit of that old, that the old bit in Family Guy with Ben Affleck preparing for a role. I think the thing is you're starring as Henry VIII, so he's on his couch and he's like, hello, got it, and out the door. It's a little bit like that. It's like, yeah, I can do it. I've done 10 years of rep. I can do anything.
We should probably move on and look at scenes of interest, I guess, in the movie. For me, I think something that's left an indelible mark on me. Basically, if I had access to a bottle of mind bleach, I'd like to be able to, take a nice warm bath in that. But the boudoir interactions with Jane Fonda in this are some of the most appallingly awkward and repulsive that I've seen, certainly in a movie of that era.
And I don't even actually. Do you know what? I don't even. I mean, we can apportion a certain amount of sort of. It was the 60s. It was whatever many years ago, and there's different attitudes now. Some of the scenes, and one scene in particular, just wouldn't pass muster in any year, I don't think.
No. If we look at the lighter side of it, I guess the lighter side of it is
She's good. Look at that.
Saxophone as foreplay, which is a new one on me. I mean, often, of course, you'd see in this day and age, you think saxophone, you think that's the soundtrack to sexy time in a movie. However, you don't actually get to see the saxophone player himself being directly involved in sexy time, whereas this is very much the driver. It is the instrument. It is his tool of seduction. He's not very good at fingering, let's put it this way. It's another thing we can add to a list of things that he can't do. He's not a good fingerer, and he's not good at southern accents.
And he's not good at miming playing the saxophone. Not good at all. No. I mean, there are notes occurring not even remotely in the vicinity of where his fingers are. It's just and blowing.
This is some sort of quantum jazz where it's not the notes you play, it's the notes you pretend to. It's the notes you don't pretend to play.
I think that's the kind of stuff that he would have gotten into with Christopher Nolan many years later. I think at this point it's just crap saxophone miming. But there's a couple of scenes. I mean, again, it's a deep south. There's something about these deep south movies where heaving bosoms and the heat and the whole lot seem to kind of feed into this notion that we have to have these really heavy duty kind of implied sex scenes, So I mean, this one now in particular, we have Jane Fonda hammered. Your man is blowing on his saxophone. She comes over, starts fondling the butt of the saxophone is the best way to put it. Before taking the saxophone,
that's called the saxoscrote.
The saxoscrote, and then takes the saxophone and starts blowing into it. Actually, and she's not miming, and it sounds it's better than what Caine was attempting. Yeah, it's appalling, but you'd I was waiting for this because we knew that what was considered to be maybe one of the worst on-screen kisses of all time is coming. I thought that the worst on-screen kiss occurred somewhere in that scene, but it didn't. It came later, and it really is bad.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way: this was described in these books as it's a rape scene essentially. Within the confines of the marital bed, so they play it in so much as a kind of it's a no means yes essentially is how I imagine they get it past the censors, that she seemed to fight back but eventually acquiesces because it's her husband and it's Michael Caine, and it's repugnant. But as part of that, he plants one of the most basically that scene in Alien where Sigourney where the alien gets sucked out the airlock.
Yes.
It was basically like that. I'm amazed that Jane Fonda's tongue didn't kind of exit her mouth and go into his as a result of it's like a fucking Dyson.
I think she was walking around with the imprint of Caine's face on her face for probably a few days afterwards. Like, it was like he was performing CPR on her while chewing on a golf ball. It's just it's awful. And I mean, you know, it gets you thinking about bad screen kisses and bad screen kissers. I have not come across anything like this. I mean, I would say that like Woody Allen kisses in general are bad. I remember reading one time Helena Bonham Carter described kissing Woody Allen as like kissing the Berlin Wall. I think that they're bad. Okay, that's a kind of bad. The only other one that really struck me, well, there was two actually. Sharon Stone and Joe Pesci in Casino is pretty horrendous. But Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones in Entrapment, I had a vague memory of it. I actually went back to have a look at it, and do you remember this one? It's awful. He looks in pain when he's doing it. Like he actually looks in pain when it's happening.
Yeah, I don't know. As the screen direction is, you must fight your urge to kiss this young woman who you've taken under your wing. But he basically, it's like, you know, when you're trying to feed give food to a toddler.
Yes,
and they're just turning away their head just before. Yes. It's basically that level of acting in there. It's very disturbing.
God love her. Like, I mean, look, there's obviously like the whole idea of Connery being and Zeta-Jones kissing is one issue, but like, it kind of, because he's ducking and diving everywhere, it looks like she's just slobbering all over him. It's awful, but it's nothing on the scale of what we're talking here in Hurry Sundown. It is like, I'll be interested when we get much further into this. Number one, where Hurry Sundown will sit overall, but also where that moment will sit in the sort of low points in Caine's film career. We can't stand over this kiss, like.
No, I wouldn't like to be standing anywhere near it.
No,
it's disgusting.
No, you liked George Kennedy in this. George Kennedy plays this kind of dumb sheriff, this dumb deep south sheriff with like eternally fucking sweaty underarms and just kind of walk around with a stoop all the time.
Yeah, so there's one scene in this where George Kennedy, sheriff, goes out to do a racism with with a bunch of the good old boys, and he's going to the Scott farm to try and to arrest Reece Scott, and he gets distracted by fried chicken. Essentially, he's that bad at racism. He goes in, all the locals are like, no, don't arrest him. He's a good boy. He hasn't done anything wrong. Why not try some of my fried chicken and other stereotypical food that I can play upon you? Basically, he spends most of the scene shoving food down his gob, goes out and doesn't realise that he's being had. It's like something out of Blazing Saddles.
It really is.
I can't believe that I genuinely can't believe that Mel Brooks didn't see this and kind of take this as inspiration for that, because it's just appalling.
It's just the goofball idiot sheriff. And you know, George Kennedy goes on later in the year to appear in Cool Hand Luke. So I mean, again, another person who scrambles from this to something much, much better. Won an Oscar, exactly. I mean, but you know what? It's the female characters. It's Jane Fonda. It's Diane Carroll. They're the ones that kind of save it in some way. Faye Dunaway, to a lesser extent, kind of saved this movie to some degree. George Kennedy actually, he plays it up, and he's actually doing all right. But he's just, the character is just it's so badly put together. I also actually in that scene isn't that the point where we get the horrible song, the horrible mid-60s pop song masquerading as a sort of a spiritual. Does that happen in that scene?
Oh yeah, that happens in that scene. All the locals gather around, and I mean, in a movie that on paper sets to dispel racial stereotypes, has no problem getting down and digging in with a knife and fork and eating, displaying every single African American stereotype in the book. So every member of the community is there at the house. They're all singing this song. They all know the words. Despite the fact that it's a song that no self-respecting black person would sing, it's a white pop song. It's not a spiritual or a gospel song. And it's tone deaf.
Tone deaf. And speaking of tone deaf and just stereotypes and so on, we move along, I think, to the judge, played by Burgess Meredith, who, and I know he's playing it up, and I know that the whole idea is a racist judge and the whole system is rigged against the right thinking people in this community and so on. But I mean, even then, Preminger here again using a sledgehammer to crack an egg. He's like, some of the language I don't care. I just couldn't watch. I couldn't watch some of it. Well, I did, but I didn't want to watch some of the language and some of the stuff that he was coming out with was just beyond belief. He was practically frothing at the mouth racism.
No, I'm not going to disagree with you. It was really uncomfortable to watch, and then I kind of go, this day and age, obviously, you have, you never, anything like this, hopefully you'd like to think would not be displayed in the movie.
No.
In a way, it was really disturbing to see. I mean, I see Mickey for Rocky talk like that, because I didn't really see Burgess Meredith in anything other than Batman. All I thought was, Jesus, if Rocky knew he was like that, I don't think he would have allowed him to train him.
I don't think he would have been anywhere near the Apollo Creed fight, that's for sure.
I think that would certainly have been a much more uncomfortable fight scene than it already is.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's just awful. Court scene is terrible. You have Mike Brady, the dad from the Brady Bunch, is playing one lawyer really badly, and the other one is just like, again, stereotypical deep south lawyer with his hands in his pockets, walking around like Matlock. It's just not good. Where else to go with this?
I'd like to focus on what I think is the most profound depiction of grief ever, at least that I've ever seen on screen, and that's when Rad's eldest boy is tragically killed in when the levee is exploded by the Ku Klux Klan.
Yes,
very moving scene where he carries the body of his dead child, puts him up the kitchen table, gathers all the kids around in case he wants one. Maybe one of them will turn into Johnny Cash or something. Here's your dead brother. Are you sufficiently traumatized? No. Do you hear that train coming? Would you shoot a man in Reno? No. Want to poke your dead brother? Walks outside and is immediately recovered from his grief. It's like, well, at least I got a few spares.
Like is it the 6 stages of grief that he goes through them in about 10 seconds? It's incredible.
I wonder if he was capable. I wonder if the script actually called for him to do more. Only that Otto Preminger realized that he basically had hired a sentient tree for the role and knew that he wouldn't have been capable of doing any more than basically walking from point A to point B.
Yeah, poor old Rad, poor old John Phillip. He kind of just stumbles through the whole movie. It's actually amazing, though. I mean, that was one point in the movie where the death of a child. He could have actually just teased it out a bit more. Rather than 10 seconds of grief and, right, now we got to get back to rebuilding the farm. Given that we had just sat through 2.5 hours of head-aching sludge that could have been cut right down, the very point that needed a bit more teasing out, he just swept through it in a rush to get to the finish of the film. Again, John Philip Law, he's a role, I'm not sure if it was next, or probably wasn't his next role, but Jane Fonda, who obviously was on this movie as well, recommended him for a role in Barbarella, which he got. So again, another guy, of them all, for this guy to get out of this movie unscathed is incredible. In terms of marks for Caine in this, it's a tricky one because, like, if we're marking the movie as opposed to Caine, they're kind of two different things. And you'll have noticed, I certainly noticed. Four. 4. I was going to say that we've actually spent more time complaining about the things around Caine rather than Caine himself in this movie. 4, I'd go with 4. I might even, maybe a 3, but I am very conscious of what's coming down the track in about 10 or 15 years' time. So, not so sure. It was a difficult movie for them to shoot. It was in Baton Rouge in Louisiana, and I mean, some of the racism they were trying to depict on screen was actually happening off screen. You did have burning crosses erected on set in the middle of the night. They were driving back to the hotel at one stage. They were sniped at from the woods that we were driving through. Bobby Hook, who played one of the Scots in the movie, and Caine were turned away from a restaurant in Baton Rouge and they went out for dinner. It was all happening around them, but obviously I'm going to put it down to the fact that the mood on set must have been so bad that they couldn't channel all of this energy that they were experiencing around them, and maybe they just weren't good enough to channel it anyway.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of factors. I think it was a bad script, lack of focus. Preminger didn't seem to have a coherent vision of what he wanted to do in the movie. I think the multiple drafts and redrafts of the script kind of show that there was a real lack of direction. And sure, it comes from the top down and anything like that. That's another sporting thing, really, isn't it? It's all driven from the top down. If the gaffer doesn't know what's going on, the players won't know what's going on. Isn't that right? Look
at you with your sporting metaphors. You're going to put me out of a job. It's great stuff. I think in fairness, and you know what? At this stage, okay, he's got an Oscar nomination, but like at this stage in Caine's career, he needs a firm hand. He needs somebody directing him. But he doesn't. I don't know what way it was, but it certainly doesn't work on this one. 4 Caines, 3 Caines, something like that. where is he in his personal life? He's just enjoying Hollywood. I think he's just floating. He's floating, you know. I mean, he's had 4 movies out in '66. This is early '67, so he's just rolling, and there's more to come. So I'd say he's just, you know, I'd say he's just in a whirl, isn't he? He's just he doesn't feel the ground beneath his feet.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably because he was swimming in a lake of booze, because most of his stories around this era consist of him reeling from party to party and rocking up on set at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning directly from the night before.
Next up, we're going to do a double up the next time, because one of the films that he's in that comes up next, he's only in it for a very short space of time. It's Woman Times 7. It's a kind of Shirley MacLaine vehicle. He's in it for 15 minutes. We'll talk about that the next day. But he's back on more, well, what you and me would consider solid ground anyway, because we both liked Funeral in Berlin. He's back as Harry Palmer in $1 Billion Brain. I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. Looking forward to seeing it. I hope that's not a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like, I feel like I'm going to be willing this to be good. Because do you know what it was? Maybe we were a bit complacent coming into Hurry Sundown. Maybe Funeral in Berlin softened us up a bit, and now we're after getting the smack. We're after getting the bloodied nose now with Hurry Sundown.
Yes, we've been hurt. We've been hurt now, so we're not sure whether we can trust him.
Yeah. I'm rethinking the whole relationship. So one other thing just pops into my head there, just as we're chatting along here. A listener writes, which is lovely. We love getting correspondence from our listeners, and you're all fantastic with your notes of encouragement and also discouragement. I think that's important too. As in, what the hell are you doing and why? Listener writes
I said I wish you and your wife would communicate a bit more informally than by correspondence, but you know. Again, probably not best for me to bring this up on this kind of forum, but you know, maybe a bit of couples counselling might work out there. You know? Yeah.
You're probably right. It's something I'll bring to our next monthly meeting. In terms of yes, there was an error. Can you believe there was an error in our Funeral in Berlin episode previously? Yes, I'm glad to say it wasn't me though. We were discussing James Bond films, which is really, what were we doing? But in conversation, you referred to Dr. No, and you referred to Guy Hamilton as directing Dr. No, when of course everybody knows that it was Terence Young, and I'm very appreciative of the listener writing in and pointing out that it was indeed Terence Young who directed Dr. No. I think I've said enough. Actually, no. You can have
what are we talking about here?
Yeah, wait a minute.
Talking about who's this anonymous person? Oh, a listener. A listener, right?
Yes, a listener.
Prove
That's
it.
all it needs to be said.
Prove it.
You're sounding like someone now who's in the Great British Break Off. Prove it. Is it proved? God's sake.
Yes. Show me the wounds in his side. Come on. Where's this fucking text message you got?
It's real and it happened, and we do have listeners. Yeah, I'm not telling you. He didn't ask to be identified. It wasn't that kind of conversation.
Fucking coward. A coward.
No.
Is this from the estate of Terence Young, was it?
This is deflection now. You're getting pulled up and you don't like it. But here we are. I'm pulling the reins. I hope you feel it. There you go.
I'm out here lay myself bare on this podcast every week. Me, Stephen Black, for that is who I am.
He's naked when he's doing this, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're telling me somebody doesn't have the decency to pull me up on an error virtually face to face. I mean, it's cowardice.
Do you accept though that you made the error?
I accept nothing.
Do you accept that you made the error?
I'm
going to get Paxman on your ass now.
I accept all I accept is that there are alternative facts.
You do not accept that Terence
His
Young
fact is an alternative to mine. One of them might be correct, the other one might be incorrect, but they are, I think, both, and we can both agree on this, they are both indisputably facts.
You see, this is how like the whole Trump thing filters down into casual conversations between people.
We see, this is the problem again. This is the problem with you liberal media elites, is that things don't go the way you like them, and all of a sudden you're throwing out Trump this and Trump that. The truth is, you're unable to deal with anyone with an alternative view to your own. You're so cushy. They're cocoon.
Yeah.
Wrapped
I'm
in bubble
wrapping
wrap.
this up.
Wrapped in your bubble wrap, in your ivory tower.
I'm wrapping this up.
I can see the room in which you live. It's clean.
Yeah, it's lovely. Off you go. Listen. Off you go to Joe Rogan. Off you go. Get out of here. Just go. And I'm going to.
I apologize for nothing.
Nothing new there. I I'm putting it out there. to the writer of that text, which is genuine true. If he is happy with that, I don't even know what you'd call that. It wasn't even a clarification.
I just like to say it to M. Foley or Michael F. If he's out there listening, as I'm sorry that you felt compelled to write, not even to the Twitter account, but more directly to somebody also sharing a very, very similar name to your own about this so-called error on our podcast. And I think we said it before, and I just like to reiterate here. There is no fact checking done in this podcast. We have no time for it. We do not have the resources for it. If you in any way hear a fact that you disagree with or you think is wrong, I absolutely encourage you to again directly message Michael Foley here, and his email number is 086.
Alfie.
I can tell you, I'm gonna wrap this up by paraphrasing Seinfeld. The text was real, and the error, it was spectacular. And you're just going to have to live with it. Okay, come back. Have a look at $1 Billion Brain. Women Times 7. They're actually both pretty easy to find online if you want to go looking for them. Stephen, thanks so much.
Thanks, Michael. And again, if you want to ask us any questions about Woman Times 7 or $1 Billion Brain, you could DM both of us on Twitter. We're pretty easy to find.
At Mallow News is probably your first port of call. And keep an eye out for the book as well. I believe there are still some Mallow News books floating around, and they're not even in the bargain bins yet, are they?
No, they're all black market.
Well then, DM
or in the dark web.
All right, we'll come back. We'll talk again. Take it easy.
All right, take it easy.
What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. Only nice ones, though. Mean comments will make Alfie cry, and no one wants to see that. The Michael Caine podcast is written, researched, and presented by Stephen Black and Michael Foley, and edited by Andrew Foley. Music is composed by Stephen Black. If you'd like to get in touch, you'll find us on Twitter at Mallow News and at Michael Caine 2. And if you enjoyed this episode, you'll find all the rest wherever you get your podcasts. The Mark of Caine is a Mallow News 2 Cubes production. See you next time.